right, so it is roughly quarter after 2 in the afternoon. We're just under 72 hours away from UFC 294, and we're going to take some time to go over the card. Um, we've got 6 undefeated fighters on this card, which is pretty rare, I would say, especially with all the notable talent on the card. This card in particular. But yeah, we're going to take some time to go over that today. Before I get into it, if you could take some time to give a little thumbs up on the video and leave a subscribe, um, greatly appreciate it, and it would help the channel a lot. Still under 20 subscribers, so it's a slow grind, but I have confidence that we will see those numbers bump up in the near future. But without further ado, let's get into it here. So, of course, the main event of 294 being the rematch between Islam Makhachev and Alexander Volkanovski. Um, and it's taking place in Abu Dhabi at the Etihad Arena. Um, so we'll see a lot of um, evs and ovs and all of that sort of thing. But yeah, let's start from the top of the card. We're gonna use the the Sherdog breakdown here because they have photos, whereas the UFC, you know, we've got some silhouettes that we need to work with there. But anyways, let's start at the bottom of the card. Bruno Silva, uh, great striker, was holding his own against Pereira until he wasn't. Um, he's 23 and 9, 34 years old, 6 foot. He's got 20 of his 23 wins are by knockout, and he's won 3 decisions. He's lost 7 times by submission, once by decision, and once by DQ, I assume. Um, yeah, this Sharabutin Magomedov. People have been talking about this guy for a long time. He, of course, infamously had that mall incident where he um, beat the piss out of a guy outside of a mall for like a public display of affection or something like that. He was kissing his girl or what have you. Uh, Neither here nor there. Um, but yeah, Bruno Silva. I mean, he was on a pretty crazy win streak until until he wasn't. Yeah, I mean, hmm, it's gonna be interesting. I haven't really watched too much tape on this guy, uh, other than that mall camera footage, to be honest. But yeah, should be fairly interesting. Um, this guy's 6'2". I think I may have seen a couple of his fights in passing, or at least highlights of them. He's obviously a big, scary Russian boy. Um, yeah. Has he fought anyone of note? No. Not at all. Not at all. So, I mean, arguably, Bruno Silva is going to be. I almost called him Bruna Silva. I think there is a female fighter of that name, isn't there? But anyway, I think Bruno Silva is going to be, well, he's definitely going to be his most experienced, probably skilled opponent that he's faced so far in his 11 pro fights. I think I saw like five or so amateur. One, two, three, four, five. Yeah. So, I mean, he's not short of experience. Um, Still hasn't fought under the UFC banner, which is sometimes, those trademark UFC jitters, right? Um, let's see. Hmm. Yeah, it should be interesting. I think. I mean, those those seven submission losses don't look so good for our boy Bruno. I think he may get hurt and taken down, or hurt and swarmed on, either TKO or submission. I think in the favor of Magomedov. But we move on. Victoria Dudikova and Jin Yu Fry. Jin's getting up there. She's 38. Um, Almost an even uh, wins and losses average, which is not good per se. She's on a 3-fight losing streak to less than elite opposition, we can say. And Dudikova is supposed to be like the next big thing, right? Um, 2 wins by knockout, 4 by submission, 1 by decision. Um, Last one against Stella Nunez, which, yeah. Oh yeah, that was sort of a fluky win, but it's when she broke her arm like bracing, I think. Hmm. Interesting. I mean, you can say that Jin's going to be the most experienced fighter again, in this case that Victoria's fought, but I think she's going to be too much. I think she's going to be too quick, and you see it pretty often in Jin's fights. People just jab her up. um, I don't know. I don't know. We'll see, but I'm leaning towards Victoria in that one. Um, what's this man's full name? Muhammad John? Um, Muhammad John. We'll just call him Mr. Naimov. Mr. Naimov from Tajikistan. He's 9-2. Let's see, on a 4-fight win streak now. Um, Apart from Jamie Malarkey, I mean, a couple of losses there. Colin Anglin. Decision. Yeah, so yeah, he trades wins and losses and decisions. But definitely goes for it. Knocked out our boy Jamie Malarkey there. Um, Nathaniel Wood's got a lot of experience. Um, how old is he? Still very young. Um, let's see. Hmm. I feel like one of these recent wins were pretty controversial in terms of the decision, but I'm, I also think Nathaniel Wood is heavily favored in this. So if I had to pick an underdog, I'd probably go for Naimov, to be honest. Um, but Nathaniel Wood is extremely skilled, middle of his prime, and or coming into his prime rather, and it's going to be likely a very good fight that I'm very excited to see. Next, we've got our third undefeated fighter of the night, Anshul Jubilee, fighting Mike Breeden. Um, Breeden's on a 3-fight losing streak. Uh, Jubilee is looking pretty freaking good. I watched a couple of his fights before the filming of this video. Um, yeah, I don't know what Breeden brings to the table that Jubilee isn't going to be able to, without being too disrespectful, do better than him. He did seem pretty susceptible to leg kicks, so if Breeden and his team take note of that and beat the shit out of his legs, I mean, he might be able to get in there, but let's see. We've got Homeboy at 6 foot and Breeden at, I think he's a little bit shorter, right? Oh, no, he's 5'10. So, yeah, I don't know. Um, Jubilee fights really long. Sometimes leaves his chin up in the air, but he's seemingly pretty accurate in his striking and has been able to get KOs in the past. So I I, I don't know how Mike's going to counter that, but yeah, I'm leaning towards Anshul um, extending his undefeated streak. Next, Abu Azaitar and Streakwez Dumas. This is a pretty wild one. Um, there's like a half a foot in height between the two of them. Um, Cedriquez is super tall for the division. He's fairly young in his career. Um, got submitted by Josh Fremd in one of his last fights. Uh, IFF, GFC, AK, IFC, IFC. Hmm. Yeah, I mean, that Cody Brundage fight was really weird, but I'm pretty sure Abu he's got a fair bit of knockouts, but he's on a pretty hefty win streak there, despite the draw, if we don't count the draw, rather. Um, before his loss to Marc Andre Barrio, which is like nothing to really be ashamed of. Barrio is a beast of a human. Uh, whew. Yeah, I don't know. I would like to have seen 6-1. Um, hmm. Yeah, I mean, if he can, I feel like if he can get in close, um, and not let Sidriquez struggle with that boy's name, um, not let Dumas like back him up and exact his game plan. Um, like if Abu's able to get him down, um, or even getting close and like catch him with a heavy overhand or something. It's tough with that much of a height disparity, but I don't know. Dumas has definitely showed holes in his game, specifically in the grappling department. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Um, Pretty sure Dumas is pretty heavily favored, and gun to my head, I would probably agree with that. But I think Azaitar is a definite. He has a chance. He has a definite chance in this fight. He has a few ways to win. Um, Next, Victor Henry and Javid Basharat. I'm not too familiar with Victor Henry. 29 fights. Hmm. Okay. I mean, that's pretty impressive. You got a decision over Hauni Barcelos, who got a decision over Said Nurmagomedov fairly recently. So yeah, I mean that translates well. Although that you can't rely on MMA math to tell you all that much. Um, Basharat has looked good, but I'm pretty sure that fight against Mendonce was a close one that he could have lost. Um, yeah, I mean he's fought some good dudes since he's been in the UFC. Trevin Jones, Tony Gravely, and then Mendonce that we've seen. Of course, he got starched in his last fight. Um, what's his name? Nate Maness. But in any event, we move on. Actually, who do I think is going to win this one? Um, I think Victor Henry is going to win this one. Um, Javid's got ways to win, of course, but obviously the experience is well in Henry's favor. How old is he? He's 36. Javid's 28. I mean, he's got the youth. He's got the youth advantage there. But yeah, uh, safe pick, probably Javid. Fun pick, we'll go Victor. I'll probably end up tossing a few different parlays together, so we'll see what sticks. Next, Muhammad Yahya and Trevor Peak. My good God, is could could Trevor Peak's head be more rectangular in this photo? That is just so wild. Love it. Muhammad Yahya, who is this boy? Hmm. Just straight out of UAE Warriors, his first fight in the UFC. Oh, he fought a couple of times in Bellator. Mixed success. All right. Um. Oh, get out of here. Get out of here. Yeah. Fuck. I mean, Trevor Peak looked really good. Really good up until he fought old Chepe there. um. A lot of knockouts. A lot of knockouts for him. Um. Yeah. Oof. It's gonna probably be a war because we know Trevor Peak can sort of absorb monumental damage and keep going. So uh, I don't know. It's all gonna depend on who picks their shots better in the wild exchanges. I think, who connects first, and is able to get their head off center or off the center line rather. Yeah, it's a coin toss there. I think Trevor Peak improves his record to 9-1 though. I think he's able to withstand or nullify the knockout threat and just make it a war. And I think he has a good chance of winning. I haven't seen too much of this Yaya boy, but I may I may come back on Friday after the weigh-ins with a different opinion. We'll see. Next, this is the fifth undefeated boy. I forgot to mention Javid is also still undefeated at 14-0. But yeah, Mohammed Mokayev, after that crazy, crazy fucking knee bar that he was in his last fight, uh, still 10-0. He's fighting Tim Elliott. Tim Elliott, who is a dog but has a lot of miles on him. He's only 36, but yeah, he's had like 30, 31 fights, 32 fights. Um, I mean, Tim Elliott can definitely beat some good dudes, depending on how Mokayev is recovering or has recovered from that knee injury that he suffered in his last fight. I think it could be anyone's game. Again, youth is strongly on Mokayev's side. Um, but Tim Elliott's a dog. He's been around here for a long time, and I feel like there isn't much he hasn't seen, right? And when that winds up being the case, these dudes are just ready for these things that some of the more inexperienced fighters may not be that he's been fighting so far. But man, it's another tough one to call. Um, you'd want to say that Mokaev stays undefeated, but I think Tim Elliott's going to give him a pretty tough fight. I'm excited to see that one. Moving on, Said Nurmagomedov. I got to really take my time in that enunciation. Um, for some reason, Nurmagomedov. Like sometimes it just comes out, but sometimes it doesn't flow so easy. He is fighting Muin Gafarov. Um, I think he's another. Is he another Tajik? Yeah, another fighter from Tajikistan there. So that's two on the card. Um, Said, this is his last fight. Lost to Jonathan Martinez. Um, and he has a decision loss to Raoni Barcelos in in the past. But in between, he's fought and beat some pretty tough dudes. The who the fuck is that guy? Um, Mark Striegel. Any of you guys know who Mark Striegel is? Didn't think so. Sorry, Mark. All right. I mean, decision loss to Jonathan Martinez after we saw what he did to Yanez um, over this past weekend. Not not too bad, but I think Said improves his record in this one. Um, I think it may be another tough fight for him. I think Gafarov has a chance. Um, never been stopped. A lot of knockouts. Uh, 5'7", 27 years old. 5'8", 31. I mean, it's a pretty close fight. Pretty close fight. Uh, I'm not sure what the odds are in this one, but I feel like I might sprinkle a little on Gafarov if Nurmagomedov is a huge favorite in that one, but we shall see. Next, we've got Ikram Askarov versus Warley Alves. Um, I'm pretty sure Askarov's only loss is to Chimaev, right? Yes. And that was in the early days of Chimaev's rise, but the two of them ending up with pretty similar records now. Chimaev 12-0, this guy 14-1. He's fighting 14-6 Warley Alves. Let's take a look at some stats here. 32, 5'11. Uh, majority of his wins by sub. Sort of an even spread between KO and decision there. He has been stopped by KO twice and submission once, and lost 3 decisions. He's on a 2-fight losing streak right now. Um, fought Usman to a decision. That's a weird stat, and he's got a win over Covington. Oh, this is so long ago, though. Yeah, so it seems like sort of a case where those boys more or less evolved, and Worley's fallen on some tough times since then. Man, he was right up with the best of them at one point. Um, I mean, I feel like he's got a chance. He's got a chance. He's been in there with some really tough competition. But I think Alascarov's just uh, too hard to bet against in this particular fight here. So yeah, I am definitely leaning towards Alaskarov, but Worley could show that he's seen it before, you know, and have a way to answer Alaskarov's attacks. But yeah, yet to be determined. Then we've got Johnny Walker and Magomed Ankalaev. What do we want to say here, right? Um, we know that Ankalaev is susceptible to leg kicks, right? Jan throws fucking baseball bats as legs, but we definitely saw Jan Blachowicz have a lot of success with the leg kicks in their fight. I feel like if Johnny can recognize, capitalize, and avoid getting knocked out, I think he might be able to at least limit Uncle Ive's movement to a point where he can start having more success on the feet and not worrying about the return. But I mean, 110% Ankalaev has enough power to KO Johnny Walker, uh, probably fairly easily. But that punch has to find the chin, you know? 31-6-5. 31-6-3. So yeah, they're pretty similar in size. Um, but put it this way: Blachowicz hits Ankalaev clean. I think he's able to take it. Johnny Walker hits Ankalaev clean. I think he might be able to take it. Ankalaev hits Johnny Walker clean. I don't think he's going to be able to take it. I mean, yeah. And I mean, Walker has a chance. He's a really talented, creative striker with a lot of power himself, but it's just a matter of when that punch is going to hit his chin and put his lights out immediately. Um, if he does end up getting knocked out viciously, I don't want to see him fight again. I don't know if I want to see him fight again, at least not in the UFC. But moving on to the co-main event, the last undefeated fighter of the night, of course, Hamzat Chimaev fighting Kamaru Usman. former welterweight champ, moving up to middleweight and trying his luck against one of the scariest dudes in all of the UFC. Debatably, right? Oof. It's a weird one. Definitely a weird one. I wonder if it's worth mentioning Kamaru's trip to Chechnya, or maybe multiple trips. But might be worth mentioning there. Anyways, I really don't know how this one's gonna play out. I don't think Usman's wrestling is going to be as effective against Chimaev as he thinks it's going to be. I and I don't know if on the feet Kamaru wins most of the exchanges. I feel like if Hamzat makes it a brawl, that favors Hamzat, right? That's gonna really hurt Kamaru's game plan, in my opinion. We haven't really seen him have too much notable success in like crazy crazy wars, right? I don't know. It's a really tough one to call. I mean, you can almost look at it as a step up in competition for both guys. Like Kamaru's obviously challenging himself at a higher weight class. Um, and Chimaev is huge. He was a huge 170 and he's huge for 185. Well, I don't know about huge for 185, but he's still big for the division. Um, and yeah, it's a tough one to call. Really tough one to call. Um, it's tough. It's tough. Was Hamzat's last fight that like weird fight against Kevin Holland? Yeah. Ugh. Two losses to Leon Edwards and then just the craziest win streak. Um fuck. It's so wild. How tall is Kamaru? 6 foot. I have 6'2". We know Kamaru has bad knees. Does Chimaev does he just go for the bad knees? Or try to? Fuck, who knows what's gonna happen here? Obviously not me. If I had to hedge a bet, I would probably lean towards Hamzat, but it's really hard to bet against Usman. Really hard to bet against Usman. Um, it could be that only Leon Edwards really has his number at this point. Um, but I digress. We move on to the main event. Islam Makhachev at 24-1 faces Alexander Volkanovski, of course, up a division on 10 days' notice. 26-2. I mean, they had a really competitive fight the first time. Some argue Alex should have won. I don't know if that's the case, albeit he did have some really good moments. Um, yeah, it's a tough one to call. Ken, all of these are such competitive fights, or are should be such competitive fights. They're all really hard to call. Um, I think if somehow Volk has figured out a way to nullify the wrestling of Islam, he beats him on the feet. Ugh. Hmm. But if, on the contrary, Volk is more diminished, or a diminished version of his best, I mean, you can't fly someone to Abu Dhabi. I guess he's in Australia, so it's not that far. It's tough to fly someone to fucking Abu Dhabi on 10 days notice and expect them to be on their game for a fight against arguably the best in the division at this time. Uh, I mean, my bet is for Volkanovski to put up a really good fight again. I don't know if he gets it done. It's going to be really hard. It's going to be really hard to get it done. Of course, Islam was more preparing for Oliveira, but he was still in training camp for a fight. Uh, my my heart is telling me Volk, but my brain is telling me Islam. Um, yeah, it's going to be a tough one, a really tough one to bet on. I pity all of my fellow degenerate gamblers out there that are gonna lose so much money. You know? Uh, fuck. Man, it's gonna be a good event. Um, from what I saw on the UFC website, let's see, there was a countdown. Yeah, there's a little countdown here. So we're currently at 3 p.m., which would indicate that on Saturday the prelims are going to be starting at 2 p.m. So that's something to take into account. I don't think it's going to have any real weight on the fights themselves, but it could cause a few folks to miss some prelims, or the, the card altogether. Who knows? But oh, this might be the main event start time too. Prelims kick off at 10 a.m. Eastern. Yep, look at that. So the main card starts at 2. interesting. This is going to be such a crazy card. I hope no shit goes on before the fights. Um, hope nothing falls out. No more replacements, please. We had two, and they could very well be for the better. But please, no more. Please, I beg you. Anyways, here's to all the fighters being healthy. Knock on wood. And I'll probably see you guys Friday afternoon with a quick post weigh-in, post official weigh-in analysis. Um, yeah, we're at nearly 50 minutes now at this point, so I've got to cut this off. Love you guys, and I will see you soon. All right, see you soon, boy. Bye bye.